Some people have a ticket to ride, and some don't. Those Afghans with papers to leave are the envy of the rest. On the military side of Kabul International Airport, soldiers from NATO countries try to process everyone, but it's hard. What do you do with a family where only some members have passports, or where papers are valid but out of date? And how long can they sustain this operation? British soldiers are trying to keep order at the airport perimeter. Another company was sent in today to deal with the massive demand for evacuation, mainly from Afghans who've worked for the British in some capacity and are desperate to prove it. And desperation is the word. Stun grenades and occasionally gunfire. The Taliban is trying to keep order outside the wall. It's become increasingly difficult for Afghans to get even this far. Fighters at Taliban checkpoints are reportedly turning people back and even tearing up the documents of those who do have a chance of getting on a plane.
I'm telling to the people, stay in their houses, do not come to this area. It's a very, very crazy situation right now.
As a result, some planes are leaving almost empty because the shuttle system can't stop, and yet many who should be on board just can't make it. But most Afghans cannot leave and must adjust to their new reality. Hence this act of extraordinary bravery. A protest by women in Kabul, whose fear of losing their right to work and lead a normal life is greater than their fear of the Taliban.
These are all women who are working in government offices and the private sector protesting for women's rights. We don't know what's going to happen to us. The women say we've fought for a very long time for our rights and we don't want to lose what we have.
This then is the legacy of the last 20 years, a belief in a constitution, citizenship, human rights, and a hope that the Taliban will eventually realize they need those who provide services, men and women.
Right now, healthcare, electricity, communication, banks, schools, those are important things, and that are not happening. So it's like, you bring in a military force that has fought for decades, and then you ask them to do services. They are not used to that. They are not educated for that. They are not trained for that. They can't do that. They don't know what they are doing right now.
Former leaders and MPs are trying to persuade the Taliban to include them and people with practical skills in a new administration. On Chinese television, a Taliban spokesman said that was possible.
So for that, the deliberation is for that purpose, in order to form a government in which other Afghan politicians, personality should also have participation in that. That is the talks or consultation is continuing for that purpose.
But the Taliban forces marching through Kalat city don't look like men ready for compromise, thinking about how to deliver healthcare and education. And the hopes of those Afghans who don't have the luxury of leaving may be crushed by the harsh lessons of history.
Lindsay Hilson reporting. Well, earlier I spoke to Ahmed Wali Massoud, a former Afghan ambassador to the UK, whose brother, Northern Alliance commander Ahmed Shah Massoud, was assassinated by Al-Qaeda 2 days before 9/11. He's currently in Pakistan as part of a delegation of leaders trying to negotiate a power-sharing agreement with the Taliban. I started by asking for his reaction to today's scenes at the airport in Kabul.
That hurts our hearts so much, because we can see our people in a very desperate situation. Everybody's trying to get hold of something in order to come out. On one hand, they're very fearful from the Taliban. On the other hand, they scared for their life. At the same time, when they see the plane, they think that, well, if we can hold it, we can just get out of this country, somewhere like that. That is why we say that this is a shared responsibility of the world community. They're all human beings. They were here. They were very high hope. They had very high hope that the international community, especially the West, may not leave them alone in that sort of situation. They really thought that one. They believed in that one. That's why they did not escape. They thought at the end of the day, even if the peace does not come, at least the Taliban can come in orderly so they can be safe somewhere.
The Taliban have said publicly that they do not seek revenge against anyone who worked with NATO or worked with Western governments or worked with Western journalists and so on. But we have heard alarming reports that in some cities, including Kabul, they're going from door to door looking for people who worked with the old regime. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that's what we heard as well. Today, I was just meeting a delegation from people from Jalalabad, and they are saying that in Jalalabad, in a big city, they have also already started selective killing of those who are working, collaborating with the army or with the government. We have heard in Hazarajat area as well. Already Amnesty International reported such thing as well. So I think, contrary to their promises, they have already started this sort of revenge.
And is there anything about the Taliban that indicates to you that this is a different Taliban to the Taliban that we saw in Afghanistan 20 years ago?
Except that there are younger generation of the Taliban. That's what we have seen on the road, on the street, everywhere. But apart from that one, we have not seen much differences.
You're in Islamabad in Pakistan to try and cobble together some kind of peace talks, coalition talks with the Taliban. First of all, is that true? Have they started? And how are they going?
Now we have been trying for the past 3-4 days to talk to the Pakistani political leadership as well as military leadership, how exactly they can influence the Taliban to really kind of come together for to curb the violence, not to go house to house, not to break the house of the people, not to attack those areas they have not launched attack yet. First, our priority is this one.
Why would the Taliban be interested in sharing power with you and your colleagues when they run the whole country now, most, 90% of the country?
What is the definition of sharing power? If they put the emirate already, then they say other ethnic to introduce some people so we can include in their own system. That is not sharing of power, because Afghanistan are made up of many ethnicities. If we really want to go for a genuine sharing of the power, before anything, we really have to stick with the principle. What sort of structure the power sharing should have? What sort of regime should be there? How exactly we can have a fair power sharing from amongst all these ethnic groups? They're very important. That's what we call inclusive.
Where does this leave Western credibility in your eyes?
In Afghanistan, I'm afraid, let me say that with the situation we can see, much of it has been already lost like that, already lost. But unfortunately, what happened, they invested, but at the same time, they brought these people, and the second thinker of the world, Dr. Ashraf Ghani, who was a thief, was a burglar, who stole so much money, who just ran away.
But he was elected.
Afghanistan just like that.
He was elected by the Afghan people.
Before the election, elected, they said he did not have 200,000 votes there.
President Joe Biden, he has more or less washed his hands of the whole Afghan enterprise. He has not made any apologies for the chaos in which his troops have left and in which people are now trying to flee. What's your message to him?
Terrorism hurts everybody. Not to forget, 20 years ago, when the United States came to Afghanistan saying that we have to root out terrorism altogether, and then we have to live in peace.
Ambassador Massoud, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.